Hello, talking today about self-care and the second pillar, mental health. Is your mental health good or not good? What is mental health? Just want to cover a couple of things in this call today. My name is Kim Searle, Emotional Mastery. Is your mental health chatter more like a radio station? It's on all day, and yet you can be hijacked just like that by a headline that it goes on, or a piece of music, which triggers an emotional response into you. Or maybe it's like a toy train on a circular track going round and around and around and never stopping, potentially impacting your sleep. Maybe you're overthinking at night. Lots of different issues that people can face with their mental health. But what exactly does that mean? And it suddenly occurred to me today, as I put together my ideas of what it is that it very often gets muddled up as a term with mental illness. They're not the same. Mental illness tends to be diagnosable issues within the brain, imbalances in the chemicals or the firing of certain electrical parts, the parts of the brain that have been damaged. Mental health is not the same as mental illness. It's like comparing your sniffs and snuffles, your bruises, your aches and your pains with something much more serious like Alzheimer's or cancer or some of those bigger things that are really serious. It's not to say that it's not important, because your mental health is so important. I've already alluded to the fact that it can disturb your sleep at night. What if it's actually dictating your life as well? So mental health, for me, is a spectrum from a little mental health to a lot of mental health. So people who are cup half empty, negative thinking, all that good stuff, potentially could be considered to be at the lower end of the mental health spectrum. But let me tell you, people at the other end, positive thinkers, everything's going to be all right, rah, 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 bit hyper maybe, are not necessarily any better than those at the other end of the spectrum. Because what's happened is they've become polarized in their mental health way of being. I would advocate that what you want is something more in the middle ground, a balance between positive, looking on the bright side of stuff, but recognizing that life isn't always a bowl of cherries. So what does that mean for you? When it comes to self-care, it's being aware of where you are. Some days you will be further down the spectrum of a glass half empty, and right now most of us are bordering more this end of the spectrum than the other. Another day you might be bouncing. Yesterday I had some really good news on a couple of fronts, and it was like, yes, that's brilliant. So I went further up. But really the idea is to become more balanced in a more regular way. And how do you do this? By becoming aware. Thinking about what you're thinking about. Becoming more aware when you're spiraling, either with the positive stuff or the negative stuff. What is that trying to do for you? What's that telling you? One of the beauties of what I do when clients come to see me with issues around their thinking, particularly the busy introverted people, because this is where we're used to living, is to start to unpick that thinking and see the patterns and join the dots and, make connections that when you're living it or in it, you're not able to do. So my one tip for you today is just be aware of where you are on the spectrum. And very often when I talk to clients, I use a 0 to 10 tool just to get them to understand where they are. So if you're anywhere between a 5 and say a 7 or an 8, that's okay. But if you're down at the 0 to the 1, maybe to 3, 4, you need to start thinking about what's that thinking doing for you. And if you're further up above a 7, an 8, 9 or 10, is that balanced? Is that consistent? If it's a one-off, let's do it. Let's celebrate. It's when you consistently stay at these opposite ends of the spectrum, there's something going on. That's my second pillar for good, all-round self-care, mental health, not mental illness. Thank you for listening. Kim Searle, Emotional Mastery.